that, but I knew that Jimmy was going to wear it, so I didn't want to look like twins. So.
Tweenies. Back on the metal voice, Todd Torre.
There we go.
Dickinson.
What's up, everybody?
The boys are back in town.
What's up back in town?
I think it's been, Todd, it's been 8 or 11 months.
I think you told me like 10 months.
Maybe it's 10 months.
It's been a long time.
10 months is a
Todd's
long
been
time.
busy.
Since 1996.
Yeah.
That's the last year we did. Now we're doing 1997. Can you believe that?
And I think the choices are just as difficult. It wasn't the most glorious time for heavy metal.
If 96 was ground zero, then we're only going up from here. So,
right?
We gotta put ourselves back in the mind space of 1997. What happened? Lady died. She died in 1997.
Yeah.
O.J. Simpson. He got his. I believe they won the civil suit against O.J. Simpson in 1997. The new chief economist of the World Bank is named Joseph Stiglitz. That's just an odd little tidbit of what happened in 1997. Jennifer Lopez, age 27, weds Oya Noah on the grounds of her friend's home in Miami. 65 million people watch Schindler's List, uncensored, shown on NBC TV. That's 1997. You got to get back in the frame of things. Alan, put on those glasses, please.
I got to put my hat on, my 97 hat.
Do you know that Microsoft releases Internet Explorer 4 beta? Version 4 beta. Crazy stuff.
I think that was the year my beta machine gave up.
Yeah. So what are we doing today, guys? This is what we're doing. We are doing 1997. It's a tough year. I'm not going to say it was easy. There were a lot of lists going back and forth, and I'm going to frame it like this. I go, Alan, a few weeks ago, Alan, we're doing 1997. His comment was, "Good luck, Jim." Tell me when you come up with the list.
Yeah. Come up with the list and let me know.
Then after that, I reach out to Todd. I go, Todd, we're doing 1997.
Hold on. You gave me a bunch of albums. I go, I know like one. I've listened to one. By the way, sorry everyone. I'm eating some grilled asparagus, feta cheese, and tomato.
Look at that.
It's customary, but you know.
So
it is what it is. But
so
yeah,
Todd kind of
with Todd.
He kind of gave up at one point, and he goes, "Look, Jimmy, just send me the list,
and
I'll just listen to everything." So here I am gathering all the information together. I send it to Todd, and then the last minute, Todd goes, "You know what, Jimmy? You should add this. Wait, hold on. I need to add this. And wait a second, let's add that." And then I send the list to Alan. Send the list to Alan. And Alan goes, "Jim, come on, man. What are you doing with all these lists? But can you add this too?"
And then I said, well, Alan's going to shit a brick when you send the last one over, and just tell him you don't have to listen to anything else that you haven't listened to already. Don't worry about it.
Oh, no, I listened to them, and I'm glad I did after.
All right, okay. Guys, there are a couple of duels, meaning that we're going to give everybody out there 2 albums, and they could tell us which ones they think will be, which they preferred, right? Now, go 10 through 1. Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Are you, hold on. I'm going to click on the YouTube link
on YouTube. Yes.
And mute it so I can like read the chat.
Read all the great.
Yes.
Parents back home. Parents just made it home in time for the show. So
good stuff.
Hey, 97. You know what I noticed, Jim? It's the formative years for certain bands like Camelot, Ed Guy, Symphony X. And then there's all these atmospheric sounds, this kind of a screamo vocals, there's guys like Dimmu, Borgir, and Emperor. And then some old punk sounds turned into something new with Entombed and Hatebreed. And it had this growing symphonic and progressive music like Rhapsody, Symphony X, Tarion. And then, completely unique sounds and stuff like Strapping Young Lad and In Flames and Him. So I'm anxious to see what we're going to come up with today.
Do you hear his headset, Todd? Do you hear his headset? Yeah. It's kind of choppy, right?
It's choppy still, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
How's it now? I'll try my best.
Okay. We'll put up.
Yeah, so some of these have like instead of doing honorable mentions,
Yes,
it seems like we decided to like pit one album up against another. Not that we think less of whatever band. We're just like, oh gosh, here's another one that did really well, but you know, so we kind of spanned a little bit more within the genres of metal, not just power metal or prog metal. There's some other stuff in there too. So,
and it's important because the times are changing with metal, right? They're trying to reinvent themselves.
and if you don't like our list, start your own channel.
Yeah.
That was our motto. It's always been our motto. If you don't like it, tough luck.
You started us off, Jim.
All right, let's start things off. All right, I got graphics. In other words, I have the album covers I'm going to show everybody. I had to change them a few times in the course of the week. But let's start off. Whoops, that's a bad one there. Hold on. Okay, coming in at number 10. Coming in hot at number 10. I have actually the album right here too. Boom. A lot of people will not be happy with this one.
Hey, wait. I don't think I have an updated list. That's not my number 10.
Here we go. And it starts.
We're at version 20. We're at version 20.
All right. You know what? I'm just going to follow your lead.
Follow my lead.
Okay. There we go.
That's it, right? Wasn't it? There it is.
Did you hold on. Did you show two bands or one?
For this one, there's only one band because at the end of the day, we said just leave it as one. That's how it ended off.
Something else looked like it popped on the screen.
No, yes. It was just, that was just a mistake. Keep in mind, I'm the director as well. So
that's called pre-ejaculation.
Oh, jeez.
All right, number 10, Jugulator, Judas Priest. Rob Halford leaves the band. Ripper Owens comes in. We all know the story. We've all seen Rockstar. It was Rockstar that sort of a similar or based on the Judas Priest experience with Tim Ripper Owens. Look, it wasn't the classic Judas Priest sound, but they were back and they were trying to find themselves in this sea of industrial metal, death metal. There's guttural vocals on this album. Maybe not as melodic as everybody would want it to be. More vocal gymnastics. I personally think Tim Ripper Owens does a great job, and I really like this album. I probably like it more today than I did when it was released. It kind of grew on me. I don't know. I like stuff that are different, unique, and that stand out. And I don't know. I dig this. I mean, some great songs. Jugulator, Cathedral Spires. And what else is on this, guys? Bloodstained, Bullet Train. And Bullet Train did get nominated for a Grammy 2 years later. So there is some justification. There must have been something to this album. Guys?
Go ahead, Alan.
Well, they reinvented themselves, including their logo. That fantastic Judas Priest logo even got changed up. So it's a darker, more contemporary sound. Maybe fits the times a little bit. But not one that I paid any attention to back in 1997, nor today. So,
all right. I'll be honest.
Chew.
Swallow.
In 1997, honestly, like I wasn't even really listening to a lot of metal. I completely, so much just sounded kind of just samey, a little regurgitated. The stuff that was coming out that I was hearing was not great. I've learned of other bands since then, and then you go back and you go, wow, I didn't even know this band, or I never heard of this before, and I wish I did. But this was not a record that was even on my radar. I knew it came out, but again, I was kind of removed from a lot of that stuff, and I didn't really invest the time to listen to, I'll be honest, most of the records on this list.
Guys, bands weren't even touring as much as they are today back then in 1997.
So, like the notes that I have on this record, because what I did was I went through every record and refreshed myself if I had heard it but just forgot about it. And if I didn't know it, I went through all the songs, took notes on my thoughts, also keeping in mind 1997. I think I was listening to Korn, probably Pantera, if you know, and Dream Theater, and that was kind of all I was. Any metal stuff. Otherwise, I was listening to other stuff. But some of the notes that I have on here is that I noticed on the guitar mix, like the guitar sound, there was a lot of the mid-range of the guitars are kind of cut out. Kind of like what you would hear on the And Justice for All record. The rhythms they were not scooped, they were like taken, they were notched out, and you didn't have that kind of bite of that mid-range in the rhythm guitars. So that was the first thing I noticed. Anthrax kind of had a similar sound like that. On a lot of their sound had those mids kind of taken out. It's a heavy record. Everything was really down-tuned, and you didn't really hear a ton of down-tuned things. I mean, Korn was down-tuned big time. We weren't used to that. Back in, those formative years of metal, the British, heavy metal bands and American stuff, aside of being everything in standard E, okay, maybe you were in E flat. And then it was like, oh, we're down-tuned to D. Now, there's two ways for people that don't know. You can keep your guitar tuned normally to E, and then you just lower the low E string to D, and that's called drop D. Or you can take the low E string and make it D and tune every string off of that, tuned to that string, in which case the whole guitar is tuned a whole step lower. So that was like a heavy sound. But on this record, I mean, some of this stuff might be tuned to C. I'm not really sure.
Where the strings are just flopping at that
point. It was a much lower tuning, a lot of slower songs. The song Death Row, the riff on that really reminded me a lot of a Pantera Dimebag style of riff, which I thought was cool. But thinking of that classic Judas Priest sound and style, this is not it. It doesn't make it bad. It's just not that. I mean, Ripper's a killer singer.
Yep.
And there's some stuff on here where he really gets into that really piercing, high, very Halfordy style of singing, which is like, okay, there's that Priest kind of vocal that you expect to hear. But for the time, again, everything was like the grungy sound, the Stone Temple Pilots, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, I think Manson, there's a lot of that going on. So the fact that there was still an iconic metal band still putting out new records, I can't criticize any of that.
It charted too, Todd. It charted. It went 12 in UK and 82 in the US. I mean, it didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe out of curiosity, right? Oh, there's a new Judas Priest album that's coming out, a new singer. There's this curious hype behind it, right? Yep. To me, this album at the time, you're saying, oh, there's a lot of this out in the music world, but when you listen to it today, you go, Judas Priest has been a band that has always taken something from the era that they're in, the musical era that they're in, and they kind of like bring it into their own sound and then put the Judas Priest stamp on it. Maybe they went a little too far on that end.
I mean, I think a lot of it was like in a heavy way, it reminded me of like something that would have been on like a Fight record, as far as like the slow groove, the riffage. I thought that it didn't have like those singable hooks, those melodic vocal hooks that I'm used to, that earworm,
Yeah.
It didn't have that for me. But again, not everything, I guess, has to have that. Maybe some people like more of a chanting kind of a chorus or thing, something like that. But anyway, those are the notes that I have on that record.
And Glenn Tipton released a solo album too, right? The Baptism of by Trial or by Fire, I think it was called. I had it at one point. It's kind of very similar music-wise to what we hear here, maybe a little less dark. So, so he was and he produced it. So it was a busy year for Glenn Tipton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know. I'll say it again. I was a fan of Tim Ripper Owens' vocals right from the start. Even then, when he transitioned to Iced Earth and to everything else he's done, to KK today, I just love his voice. It's just he's got a great voice. And on this album, he displays more vocal gymnastics than melody, right? But I like it. I think it's cool. I think it deserves number 10. All right.
So the next one is going to be a little battle, not for us, but for the viewers to weigh
There you go.
on the
There we
comments.
Okay, let me get it.
So we aren't picking a favorite here, but maybe you guys can.
Okay, coming in at number 9, and it's and you could pronounce it for me because I always mess up this pronunciation.
We got Jugulator.
Dimmu Borgir.
Yeah, you totally fucked that up.
Children of Bodom. All right.
Yeah.
So maybe Todd, I think you need to explain these two. Or Alan, maybe you want to just weigh in there.
Oh, here's a second though. Just for your information, Judas Priest, Jugulator, in the Bible, top off the Bible, top 500.
Where are we at?
Actually came in at 322.
There you go. Go. Jugulator. There he is.
So I'll let Todd talk about his 2 picks.
Okay. So basically
these were and let's just
these were
Todd's picks. Go ahead. That's it. That's all I want to say.
These were my edition recommendations.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, both of these records were important. The record for Children of Bodom, it was their first release. And, you know, they're a melodic death band. I mean, Alexei has passed away, unfortunately, but he was a killer guitar player. And you hear a lot of different things on this. You hear some black metal kind of elements. You hear power metal. You hear some prog stuff. You hear thrash. You hear death. There's a lot of stuff on here. So it's not like a one-trick pony band musically. Vocally, I think where Jimmy takes issue and has a hard time getting into any of these bands isn't because of the music, it's because of the vocals. So it's not a singing kind of a band. It's screaming, raspy, scratchy, some very thrash, death, almost black metal kind of vocals from Children of Bodom. Dimmu Borgir is like, it's symphonic black metal, and they were a big deal in that world. These are like subgenre. These are like underground, genre of music, where usually metalcore was a big thing, or new metal was a big thing in the US. Or we think of power metal or progressive metal, but there's so many other kinds of metal. What I like about this list is we're bringing in some other more obscure things that maybe aren't the most popular in the US, but in Europe, they're a big deal, a super big deal. They had critical reception, both of these. I'm pretty sure both were listed in certainly for 97 by Metal Hammer as 2 of the biggest records for that year. They were met with critical acclaim and critical good positive reception. So I just thought, hey, it's probably tough for people to choose because they're both great bands in their own right. I know that Dimmu has, to more of the true black metal fans, bands like the symphonic metal, black metal bands like Dimmu or Cradle of Filth that have strings and orchestration. Some of the more old school black metal fans kind of turned an eye to those bands. But they just showed that, hey, you can incorporate these other elements and still make it really cool and dark and musical and not so stripped down and raw. So the pure black metal fans maybe don't like Dimmu Borgir, but they're great records. If people don't know them, they should check them out. I'm going to click on the YouTube link and see what people are saying.
Well, all right. We haven't asked people. So you choose. It's up to the people that are watching.
Yeah.
Choose one or the other, and that will be number 9. And the one.
No, as usual, we do this list with Todd. Todd's coming in with a different perspective than Jimmy and and I really glad that you added these two. There's two bands I would never listen to, but if I had to choose between two, I would go with Children of Bodom. And for me, it's a perfect blend of kind of old school metal and new school metal put together. That's the way I found Something Wild to be. Dimmu, it's almost atmospheric music. It's not creating a music. It's just creating an atmosphere that you can lay the vocals over.
Yeah.
It's the way
I mean, there's just a ton of. See, the other thing too is in a lot of black metal. Well, I should have plugged my guitar in. I can show you, but thrash has more of that palm muted sound. In a lot of black metal, you hear more tremolo picking, where they're strumming across the strings are opening. They're not always palm muted. When we hear of like Megadeth or Pantera or Anthrax and bands like this, more thrash, you hear more of that you don't really hear as much of that in black metal. You'll hear more. So they're doing a lot of tremolo picking, and it opens things up. When you start palm muting, you get it's a more staccato tight thing. But when you let the strings just open, it does create that what you're talking about, Alan, this kind of bigger sound and more open. It totally adds for a different canvas and landscape for sounds, and then you start adding in these atmospheric pads and choir sounds and strings, and it's a huge sounding thing. Whereas it's not really about having a singer in the way that I sing, for example, but more about just this vibe and attitude and that kind of a thing.
That was my takeaway too. Yeah.
But the Dimmu Borgir record is hailed as like a masterpiece of a record for them. So when we look at the criteria, like, is it genre defining? People in that world look at it and go, wow.
This is the poll, how it's going so far. We got I just lost track who was which. Dimmu, Children.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Exactly. Something that created something.
I would say Dimmu is probably winning.
Okay, so here's the question, you guys. In the Bible here, only one of these albums came in at number 276. Which one?
I'm gonna say Children of Bodom.
I'm gonna say Children of Bodom too.
It was actually Enthroned Darkness Triumphant.
Oh, it was Dimmu. It was
Dimmu, yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, there you go.
And I think we should point out what the criteria is here.
Now
we're
in 1997.
Well, these are the things that we think
was out for everybody. 1997.
Criteria is critically acclaimed. For example, a band has 12 albums, but this album.
This is your criteria. Let's just
this is the criteria that we're using today.
Down this road before.
So the criteria is critically acclaimed, right? Because it's not everything's about album sales, right?
I thought it was. A lot of our past shows you were saying,
but that's part of the criteria. One of the criteria, we could say critically acclaimed. Is this album critically acclaimed? Is this genre defining? Has it sort of charted around the world? Did they sell a lot of albums? And did we like it? As metalheads for many years, did we like it? So, I mean, that's part of it too. And has it been loved over more of a time?
And there could be very, let's say, defining. I mean, genre defining is a bold. That's bold.
That's bold.
But if it's significant in that kind of a way, at whatever varying degree, maybe it didn't sell a lot of records, but they were a very important part of that style or that sound. So then you start to weigh the different variables that you're talking about, and you're like, okay, hey, maybe I didn't like the band. Maybe I don't really like it, but they totally did X, Y, and Z. And so you say, okay, I can't just pick things I like,
And keeping the metal spirit alive. There are some guys who's just going out there and they kept playing metal, even though the fans weren't coming out. They weren't selling as many records. They're kind of, driving around in their car because they couldn't afford a tour bus anymore, but they kept going out there, So those are that's all the criteria there, Alan. It's not only about me, Alan. It's not only about me. It's about everything in general.
All right.
This guy says main criteria must be maiden related.
Well, so far there's no maiden relationship, right? This is a tie. Children of Bodom.
Somebody says Children of Bodom created a distinctive sound. We're a fantastic live band.
I'm going to call this a tie. I'm calling it right now. It's a tie.
Okay. All right. Let's get to number 8.
Let's get to number 8.
You know, I have a cool picture with Alexi and it's me, Alexi, and Zach Wilde.
Okay.
And now that he's gone, you kind of look at the photograph differently, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at number 6, Todd's going to give us an update about his solo album and his selective shows as a solo artist.
Right now?
That's a show. A show within a show. What's up with Todd?
I don't even know what you're saying.
Let's play. What's up with Todd?
Sometimes I don't know what I'm saying. I'm saying at number, did I say 6 or 7?
We'll take a pause
when we get to number 6, when we take a pause.
Hold on. Wait. Dude,
an update. What?
I don't know what we're doing right now.
We're at number.
We're trying to get to number 8.
We're at number 8.
All right, number 8.
We're at number 8, and at number what number did I say, Alan? At 6, we're taking a pause.
Oh, okay.
Everybody get a glass of water.
I understand.
Right?
And we'll play What's Up with Todd.
Hey, brought to you by.
Okay.
All right.
So we're at number 8.
I don't trust my list, so you can
another challenge.
And this is more of the power metal challenge.
Royal
Stradivarius Visions or Hammerfall Glory to the Brave, which was their first album.
That's a good one. That's a good battle.
So as we chit chat about these guys, which ones do you prefer? For myself, I would lean towards more Hammerfall. I think their first album is their best album. Not only is it power metal, but there's a little more raw power or hunger of a new band that started off. I think the vocals are great, extremely melodic. They are keeping the metal spirit alive, especially 1997 when you're not hearing much of metal. And as bands were falling apart, they were starting off, and the album actually did do well. Surprisingly did well. They come out of Sweden, which was, I guess, that area of Europe or the world was really picking up a lot of steam on metal, especially power metal. So hats off to Hammerfall, which I think is probably their best album in their catalog. I don't know. And you know what's even surprising, Alan and Todd? When I saw Hammerfall live, you don't expect them in North America to have a following. But boy, man, they have a lot of followers, man. There's people wearing their shirts and singing their songs, and it's surprisingly, it's really cool to see how many followers they do have. It's just amazing.
They have a lot of fans, a lot of followers. I think we played probably a couple festivals with Hammerfall. Super nice guys. I know on a personal level.
Tall guys too, man.
They're really nice. In fact, I just texted the singer. They were on tour recently here, and they were not far from where I live. But I wasn't in town. We were out anyway. I mean, look, if you're a big power metal fan, you're probably gonna love it.
Yeah.
The Stradivarius record, I thought, had a better production. It was more crisp sounding. They're both great at what they do. Don't get me wrong. I just thought that the Stradivarius album had more diversity. Mm-hmm. And was a little less, that kind of thing. The guitar playing is everything on it's really, really great. Both albums are great in their own right. If I had to choose, I think I would pick the Stradivarius record. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Alan, you might be the tiebreaker here.
I'm going with Stradivarius here because I mean it sounds so modern. It could almost be released today.
It sounded very modern.
I'm listening to the interplay between the guitar and the keyboards, and I mean, if these guys went to Berkeley Music Academy, they could have been Deep Purple. If Deep Purple went to Berkeley Music Academy, it would have been Stradivarius. So, Hammer, I love Hammerfall. I think their recent releases are some of their best, Jim. So I'm not. That's my own feeling. This is their debut album. And this is the new breed we spoke about in 1996, right? The guys that are carrying that torch, the metal torch up high. They're still releasing quality albums today. And I can really hear on this album, people have talked about how Riot's Thundersteel has influenced power metal or created power metal. And that's something I can really hear that influence on this album. I mean, if Warlord and Halloween had a baby, it would probably be called Hammerfall. So,
Joachim, he came from Warlord, right? He sang on their album, then he became the singer of Hammerfall. Children of the Damned, which is a great version of Warlord's, classic song, The Metal Age, Stone Cold. It's sort of like the Scorpions meets Accept meets Halloween, or maybe, as you said, Riot, the sort of power metal of Riot. So I don't know. I think it's a really cool album. Everybody check it out.
I mean, the production differences are massive, to my ears. And you also had what I think of more of a prog sound on the Stradivarius record. There were some things that stood out to me that sounded more proggy, that the Hammerfall record doesn't really have. But again, if you like straight up classic power metal, I mean, you can't go wrong with a band like Hammerfall. But I mean, so we're not like, it's not like we like or dislike one band over the other. We're fans of all these bands.
These guys, we're just talking about are Vikings. That's all I'm going to say. These guys are Viking giants. I stand next to them. The Oscar's like massive, and Joachim's big, and they're all big, and I feel like
my wife told me,
I feel like a hobbit.
My wife just told me that it was sacrilegious that that we're not talking about a band, but I'm not going to say what the band is till we're done, because
that's right. It's good.
People might wonder if we're going to mention this band.
Yeah.
But I know that.
So what I'm seeing in the.
Go ahead, Jim. Both of these albums made the top 500 in Martin's book.
Whoa! But before we get to that,
which one placed higher?
I'm seeing more Hammerfall comments.
So am I.
And when I turn my head here, I see Hammerfall. So I think we've got to give it to Hammerfall. But Alan, please reveal where Hammerfall is.
Well, which one? You two guys, who do you think placed higher out of these two albums?
Oh man, I think Hammerfall.
Man, I don't know. I'm gonna say Stradivarius.
And Stradivarius came in at 218, and Hammerfall Glory to the Brave came in at number 285. So both of them cracked the top 300.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Well, we got good taste. That's all I know.
So hey, these were good. They were good at records to put on the list.
Absolutely. We have good taste.
That's what number are we going to now? 7.
We'll get to my soul.
And after 7, what's up with Todd?
Yeah,
let's play What's Up with Todd.
Okay.
All right, here's my only pick.
Here it comes. And Alan, Todd wanted to add another one to this. I go, listen, Todd, he picked one album. Let him have his album. There you go. Go, Alan.
Pleasant shade of gray from Fate's Warning. Anything Fate's Warning does is going to be on any top 10 list as far as I'm concerned. And, this might be an all-star lineup for them, right? I mean, Joey Vera replacing longtime bassist Joe DiMiazzi, Kevin Moore on keyboards, the great Mark Zonder on drums, as always. And, I mean, great musicianship, everything we expect from Fate's Warning. It's kind of a 12 parts. I don't know if it's one song broken up into 12 parts, but there's 12 different movements here, I guess we could say. Everything you expect from Fate's Warning, great musicianships, interesting time changes, fantastic musical passages, and no hits. There's not one hit on this album, so that's typical Fate's Warning fashion. And I mean, I listened to this just to prepare for the show. I didn't want to listen to anything else the rest of the afternoon. That's how good this album is.
Todd.
He says Todd while he's drinking.
Todd, well, no,
I mean,
I just because I'm directing here. I'm directing.
It's a look. It kind of reminds me of like when Queensrÿche went from albums like Parallels is one of my all-time favorites of all time. Parallels, No Exit, Wake in the Guardian.
Yeah.
You go from like Rage for Order, The Warning, Mindcrime, Empire. These are big records. Then Promised Land, and it's like really a slower record. So for me, and I know they had another record before this, by the way, but it's a very, it's not a record you're going to put in and like pump your fists and be like, this kicks ass in like a rockin' way. It's way more dark. It's way more melancholic. It's super spacious. A lot of more clean guitar. I love Jim's writing, by the way. I mean, he's just a phenomenal songwriter in whatever he does. But for me, it was, a totally different kind of a record. The songs are slow. It's a slow record. It has standout moments for sure. And it's super progressive. I mean, there was a message I remember sending to you, Jimmy, that said, let me find it, and I can tell you the song. Alan would definitely know it.
I will add, Terry Brown was the producer of Rush fame. He was the producer of this album. That's something to point out. Critically acclaimed.
Recorded in Connecticut again, of course.
Yeah. It's 12 parts.
There was a recent interview with Ray Alder, and it sounds like Jim's not going to do any more music for Fate's Warning. So
that's what it sounds like. I think the track I was mentioning was part 11, if memory serves me correctly. It was like really, it was a more fast-paced song, but it was super proggy. Yeah. I mean, it's again, and you're getting into a totally different, type of metal album. I don't even know if they like being called like a metal band.
They've always been considered a metal band.
No, I know.
But they don't usually sound like a metal band.
No, there's way more than just that. I mean, it's like a Dream Theater. Dream Theater has clean guitars and crazy time signatures and, the vocals. Another thing too is, I don't know if you people realize how hard it is to write vocals in an odd time signature and make it feel like it flows and it's not forced. It's really not that easy to do, especially if you're just carrying a note and then here comes that next change to know where that one is and where you would start the next phrase. That's not easy. And Ray does it masterfully. I mean, so
yeah.
You can listen to your early Fates at Warning On with John Arch. And I think that's one of the things that he almost struggled with it at times, right? Because the phrasing was unique to say the least. So,
well, not only the phrasing, but the notes that he hits.
Oh yeah.
The notes that he sings a lot of minor, like those are very unorthodox notes to be singing. And I mean, that's where he hears things. And I always tell him like how much I love that. It's very unique and distinct. I mean, nobody sounds like John Arch, but
nobody.
Yeah, nobody. And that's a really great characteristic.
I think everybody's happy with your choice there, Alan. Number 7, your one and only choice. There you go.
There you go. Hit out of the ballpark.
You've done good.
Retiring with 1,000% batting average.
Let's see where we go next. After this next pick, we're going to talk what's up with Todd.
Yeah. So Wade Black, who's a friend, he says, "What's up, my brother of metal?" He was the singer of Crimson Glory before I got involved with them. He used to sing in a band called Lucian Black back in the 90s, I'm guessing, because I was in a band and he was the guy. This is when I was a drummer in a band. And I remember seeing this guy with this kind of like buzz haircut, blonde hair, these blue eyes. He wore shorts and combat boots and he was like a Halfordy kind of metal singer. He was like the guy around here that was, wow, who's that guy? He sounds, it was that total Halford kind of singing, and it was killer.
All of
Um,
them.
so he's saying hello, so that's cool that Wade tuned in. Thanks, Wade. Haven't
Thanks,
seen
Wade.
haven't seen him in a while. He was in Leather Wolf,
Oh
and I
yeah.
can't remember what other bands, but nevertheless, he has a new band called Astronomica, if I'm not making a mistake there, which was a Crimson Glory record that he did with them back in, geez, 99 or something. I can't remember. Um, but anyway, yeah, he's a really nice guy, local guy here. So it's cool that there's a couple guys out of this area that went on to do things bigger than, at a local level.
Right.
All right. Nice
Yeah.
plug. Nice plug.
Yeah. So yeah,
What do
as
we
far
got?
as like what I'm doing, I mean,
No,
we
no, no, not yet. Not
oh,
yet.
I thought
Not
I
yet.
thought you said
No, no.
after 7. Sorry.
Oh,
After
after
6.
6. Yeah.
Oh, after 6.
It's
Okay, my
okay.
bad.
It's
Not
okay.
that there's
It's all
any
good.
hard or fast
It's all
rules here.
good. It's all
I don't
good.
even know who number 6 is.
Number 6. You guys ready?
Yeah, Jim. Let's go.
Megadeth, Cryptic Writings.
Hmm.
I'll let Alan start off on this one because he gave me
I
an
mean, this is one of the few Megadeths I don't have. You listen to Trust and Almost Honest, you're much more mature songwriting, but is it Megadeth, right? Then you listen to the rest of the album, and yeah, okay. Did Lars challenge them to do something different? I don't know, but you got acoustic guitars, you got even harmonica on it. So I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's one that I wasn't familiar with. It's one of the few, like I said, I'm missing. So thanks for choosing that. It was a pleasant listen. So.
Did
You're
you say
welcome.
harmonica? I don't remember hearing harmonica.
There's a harmonica in one of the songs. Starts off kind of a bluesy harmonica, and it actually plays throughout. So
I
Well,
must have skipped over that.
it's the last album with Nick Menza. Marty
Yeah.
Friedman plays on this. It sold probably under 1 million copies, which is that's pretty awesome for 1997. Mind you, they had a major label behind them, so when you have that big, massive push, it makes it just a little more easier. They tended to go more of the melodic approach, less thrash, more melody, and I kind of like it because of that. Why make the same record over and over again? They changed it up and they did something different, and it shows. And I think they deserve to be in number 6 for 1997. And there was a Grammy nomination for Trust.
Yeah, that was a big
That was
song.
That was a big song.
I think I remember seeing an interview with Marty about this record, and I think he was just kind of like wanting to do more musical things. And this might appeal to some of those interests or sensibilities that he wanted to put on a record. It's got a lot more funk kind of grooves, and it's not like a thrash metal record in my opinion at all. I mean, there's one or two that are like, okay, that sounds like Megadeth, but again, in 97, I mean, it was just such a weird time. And I think a lot of these bands felt like people aren't embracing this style of music like they were, and they were taking probably a combination of taking chances to see if something would stick and kind of help revive things that were, on a downward spiral. And then probably it was like, hey, this allows us to try different things, even just from a creative aspect, regardless of if it would stick. Like, hey, like, kind of all bets are off now. We can just kind of do whatever we want because everything else that's popular is not what this right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Queensrÿche did it. I don't know why. A lot of bands tried it, and it probably gained some fans in a commercial sense, but then to a lot of the hardcore people that loved, I mean, I loved Countdown to Extinction. I thought that was more modern, but it was super melodic, but it still had the core of Megadeth sound, but it was like this perfect marriage and blend of kind of, all of those sounds that we like for Megadeth, but like today, back then when it came out. Still love that record. So this record for me was like a really big deviation. Not a big fan of it by any means. I don't own it. I'll never buy it. But if the song, if it came on, I mean, I wouldn't turn it off per se, but in the sense of like the discography of Megadeth, I wouldn't rank this like way up there.
I got to say something else about this time. So, if you want to define Generation X as the core group that was buying all these albums in the 80s, right? We're buying all these albums in the 80s and it kind of flipped to the 90s, to the 2000s. A lot of us were still in late 20s, early 30s, mid 20s, perhaps. We were still finding ourselves. We didn't have as much disposable income, right? I had my second kid then. The money was tight. So even if there was a show, I kind of second guess myself. I wouldn't buy as many albums because the music wasn't interesting, but at the same time, I had to buy the diapers, right? So I'm just saying it was a time where we sort of like, and I know the 90s, the economy wasn't as great either. So people were struggling. There wasn't a lot of money out there. Not to say that some people didn't do well. The .com thing went to shit and everybody lost their money there. And I'm not sure if it was before or after, but whatever. That was what the period was like. It was a very dark period. And it's reflected in the music.
And when you think about like an album that wasn't like even like amazing, and you look at the number of sales even then, because like now we're starting now we're starting to get closer. When did the whole file torrent sites and MP3s and when did all that
like it was coming up. It was coming up in like the late 90s, let's say.
Okay, it was coming up. So
or it came, yeah. Right
that's when everything totally took a dive, right? I mean, I'm with ASCAP. I'm not with BMI. I'm with ASCAP, and I get my statements from everywhere. It's stuff I've done is played around the world, and it's like my royalties are a joke. It's not even worth talking about. I mean, 4 Queensrÿche records, my solo record. I've done cameo stuff with Metal Church, with Michael Sweet, with this band, with that. Dude, it's a joke. And if the records that I've done with the band now were even like as shit was getting really bad in the late 90s, I would be my mailbox money would be really fat. So it's even these records that are like, yeah, it's okay. Well, they did almost 1 million, and you're like,
I'd kill for 1 million.
Oh yeah, I mean, bands that were selling millions of records now are selling, 10,000 records in the first week or something. It's not even worth talking about. But this is worth mentioning because even, okay, the one hit on that record, let's say,
yeah, people
were still buying physical. They still were supporting that. Now, I don't have Spotify. I don't have Pandora. I'm on it, but I don't have it. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't care about it.
Todd, I'll bring it even one step back. The demise started with the CD burner. So what people used to do was
I know
they got a CD burner. They went to HMV.
Sure.
They bought the CD, and then they had this return policy where if you don't like it, you give it back. They used to burn all the CDs
and return.
And return. That's where it all started. Then Napster came in and just like annihilated everything.
Well, yeah, but look, once you were able to like move things in these digital crazy numbers as an MP3,
yeah.
Okay, now you can download a zip file of the entire discography in 10 minutes or whatever it was. Sometimes it was an hour. Who gives a shit? But you basically got their entire career.
Yeah.
You got for free, and people are so used to hearing. People are like, "Oh, I still have a CD player in my car. In my Vet, I have a CD player. It has like Android Auto or audio or whatever it is, where I can like see maps and do all this stuff, but I still put a physical CD in my car because the fidelity, the sonic qualities of a CD, people are so used to hearing compressed, shitty MP3s. There's so much work that goes into miking everything and getting everything right. And then it gets these artifacts and things get stripped out, and it just doesn't sound.
No, look at this. A file that you listen to of a song is about 5 megabytes, right? On a CD, that same song is 100. So you just shrunk it down to 5. So you're going to lose. You're obviously going to lose, right?
Yeah. Anyway.
Let's play What's New with Todd.
Let's do it, Todd.
Brought to
So
you
Todd,
by.
what's
Brought to you by
Todd Latorre's t-shirts.
Joe's Feta
Soft,
Cheese.
comfortable. The
Brought
best
to you
thing
by
to wear in
Teal.
the summer.
TLT Feta. So
By the way, my Kia has a CD player too.
I still have one with a
I
CD
bought the
player as well.
last generation of Kia, which was about 5 years ago.
Yep.
And it goes, there's a CD player. It goes, yeah, but they're not going to make them anymore with the Kias. I go,
but I can, yeah. Well, now
So
my wife,
I can take it out and put one in it.
Just before we hear from Todd, we want to get back to the debate Jimmy had: diapers or the newest Priest album, which was Jugulator back in the day. So you guys write in what you would have chose, getting new music or diapers, and then we'll hear from Todd. Well, feel free to vote, and we'll find out.
What are you going to do? Not get diapers, Alan? I don't understand.
But I don't know. I'm not choosing it. I threw it out there. We're going to count the tally up the votes after we hear from Todd here.
What a crappy situation to be in.
That's right. It sucks.
So yeah, last time I saw you guys, we went to have a meal. We were in Montreal on the Queensrÿche Origins tour, and that went really well. We had a great time. And I got to wear the hockey jersey, and people got all excited. I felt like I was wearing a nightgown because it's so big. You're like, that's how they fit.
I go, Todd, don't worry about it. It'll fit you. Just wear it. Just wear it. Don't worry.
And dude, it was so fun when I put it on and the pre-roll's happening and Queen of the Reich starts and I come out and they're excited. And then they see it and they're like, they were more excited. So it's always fun to do that. So we finished that tour. We have a bunch of stuff coming up later in the year that's still to be announced. Next year we went ahead and put that press release out that we're going to be doing a month in Europe. We haven't been to Europe in 5 years, going on 6. With COVID and everything, all of these bands, they were just booking the same lineup that whatever it was for the next year, and the tour bus costs have doubled. Fuel is about 3 times the cost of what it is here. And if you want a tour bus to go schlep around Europe for a month, it's about $90,000. Never mind band and crew pay and taxes and the VAT taxes in Europe that we don't have to deal with here, and it's a whole thing. So that's why you see a lot of bands not going to Europe. And if they are, a lot of them are just going at a loss just to kind of do it. So we're going to be doing a tour there. It's the Origins tour. So that's cool. Right now we're doing weekend warrior gigs. So we just played in Michigan. I came home Sunday. I leave again Friday to play another show in a different part of Michigan. And then we're home. And so we've got a lot of fly dates for the rest of the year. On my private time, I'm writing songs, writing ideas and riffs and recording things every day for my solo record. So, and then a lot of people ask, am I going to tour on it? And so just to kind of clear any confusion, I don't see myself like what I would call a tour. I mean, in Queensrÿche, we tour where we go out for 4 to 7 weeks at a stretch. The last run we did, we were gone for 10 weeks. I haven't established my own value as a solo artist. I'm always with Queensrÿche. So that's something I'm very pragmatic about. And I'm approaching things as in an experimental sense, like, hey, maybe I do a couple of shows in my own backyard here in Florida and see how that works out. And then maybe a few months later, I go do 4 or 5 shows out in California and Vegas or something. And then I go over to New England and do a handful of shows later in the year. So at the very most, maybe I would go out for like 14 days, maybe.
Select shows.
Select shows.
Exclusive
Exclusive shows. playing my own original material. Maybe for fun, I would throw a few covers in there, just so stuff everybody definitely knows, just for fun. No Queensrÿche music. People can see me year-round performing Queensrÿche. I don't feel right performing Queensrÿche music without the guys right now. Even songs that I've written with the band. I remember telling this to Eddie, and I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And he was like, oh, okay, well, and I told him, I'm not going to be doing any Queensrÿche songs. He goes, really? Not even the ones that you wrote with us? And I was like, so he was even like supportive if I wanted to. And I was like, I don't think so, dude. Like, I just want to do the solo stuff and stick with that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I've got.
Okay, here's a thought. Todd La Torre selective show in Athens 2025 will all join you.
There you go.
There you go.
Me and Alan will be there.
Check on the
We'll take a little tour of the Parthenon and all that. Don't worry.
Yeah,
we'll have a great time.
We'll do a metal voice from
Yeah, with the Apollo 7. We get the Apollo 7.
7 guys back together.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's going on in my world, spending time with my wife and our dog Vader, and seeing my mom tomorrow for lunch. That's kind of it, like everybody else. And then, doing the weekend thing until we start doing more ground touring.
Tanvir the Troublemaker saying, Todd, will the second album be different to the first? And by the way, Tanvir, my friend Tanvir, he was striking because Queensrÿche wasn't coming to Europe. But now that you are, the strike is over. He's put down his picket sign, right? And now he's going to be at your show. And now he wants to know, will the album, the music that you're creating now, will it be similar to the first solo album?
Well, regarding any strike.
The strike's over. The strike is over.
Hold on.
Strike the Reich is over.
Hold on. People all the time think, why haven't you come over? Has nothing to do with us. It has to do with booking agents. And maybe they can't even cover our expenses. Maybe the offer sucked. Maybe it's not, we're not going to go over there and lose money. So, people are like, oh, you're not coming to Scotland, or you're no here. And it's like, hey, talk to a promoter, a buyer that will bring us to you, So that's just wanted to touch on that, why we don't go certain places sometimes, or logistically, we can't. As far as the record goes, I mean, the ideas that I'm coming up with are there's some thrashy stuff for sure, but I think it's going to be more musical sounding than the first record I did. The first record I did, I love, but it's a lot of like, I want way more like clean guitar. I want more soundscapes. I want more like, even there's so many great libraries that you can use that have like different orchestrations and different sounding instruments and like choir things and vocal things. And I want it to sound bigger, more layered guitars. My first record was much more raw and stripped down, which I thought it's great. I love the record I did. This one is going to be, I guess I just want to say more musical. If I hear a song like Catch the Rainbow with Dio from Rainbow, like that's something I would love to have on my record. So I really don't care about having anything with continuity on this record. Mm-hmm. It's going to be everything I didn't get to do on the first record. And there'll be heavy things on it for sure. But I would say where I'm at right now, more musical. I don't want to say more proggy, but potentially a little proggy. But I'm just hearing a lot more breathing room on this record, and better, cooler intros that kind of start out with clean guitar and take you somewhere. And so that's kind of like the ideas that I hear in my head. I'll hear these ideas all the time, and I'll literally grab my guitar, set my phone right there, and play the part. And then it's like I basically, what I need to do is start taking pieces and making songs out of all of these ideas that I have. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Just in time for Todd Lavery 2025 in Athens. Perfect timing. Yeah.
There you go.
I got to be there. My cousin's getting married, so I got to be
There you
there.
go. All right.
So,
Sign me up.
By the
Push
way,
my-
hold on. Wait. Is Tanvir the guy that's TMC?
Yeah.
Because he's saying it's a joke. It was a one-man strike.
It was.
I wasn't offended in the least bit, by the way.
Well, I was.
But it did affect record sales.
Yeah. No, it's totally all good. I'm just clarifying for everybody else that comments on social media why you didn't come here, why you didn't come there.
We literally had the same conversation with Michael Sweet a couple of days ago. He was talking about the bus cost and everything.
Oh, dude, it's and look, I'm not going to go around in a van for some crazy amount of time. You know, if I can't afford a tour bus on my own, okay, then I go out for a week, hotel rooms every single night in a van, super stripped down and simple, and just kick ass on stage and move on. And hopefully people will want to come.
There's no Queensrÿche in Ireland, Kathleen. I tell you, there's no Queensrÿche in Ireland.
No KK, no Queensrÿche.
Okay, where were we?
Well, number 5, another battle royale.
Hold on, what was 6? Megadeth.
I don't remember. Yeah, 6 was Megadeth. Yep.
All right.
Okay. This is another.
I guess I had a second choice. This is one of Todd's and one of mine, it sounds like here.
Oh, what is it? I don't even know what
it is. This is a duel.
What is it?
This is how we roll. Todd Lavery, Athens, 2025, September.
Get the t-shirts.
Now.
The t-shirts are being printed.
Get your tickets now. I got to be in September. I got to be there for a wedding, Todd. It's perfect timing. Alan, bring the wife.
Anytime you want to get me to Greece, the answer is yes.
Todd?
I mean,
wife.
Hey, I got family there, so.
I got our families there. I got my family.
Check on the olive trees.
Don't worry. We're going to have a great time. Okay, here we go. Outdoor amphitheater. Okay. Number 5. Paradise Lost 1 Second. Or The Gathering, Nighttime Birds. Interesting. I would have never even known these albums existed if it wasn't for Todd and Alan. So I'm going to let you guys speak to these guys.
Go ahead, Alan.
I wouldn't know these albums existed if it wasn't for these top 10 lists, and that's what I love about them. You get to revisit some of the stuff you missed in the past. I chose The Gathering, Nighttime Birds. Listening to it today would even be considered a metal album, but it definitely made it all the metal lists that I've come across in 1997. But being female fronted, you can hear the groundwork for many bands that have come since. I mean, I hear a little bit of Leaves' Eyes in there. I hear some Nightwish. I even hear some Evergrey being on this album. So going back to what we said, is this a groundbreaker? Is this an influencer? I think it was. But is it a metal album? Listening back to it, it was more atmospheric and kind of wide open spaces. But it did make Pop-Off's top 500 album list, like I said, with a lot of other lists.
Look at that.
It came in at number 314, actually. So
okay.
And then if I go to Paradise Lost 1 Second, I mean, that's a very keyboard heavy, disassociated, atmospheric, again, music. I mean, if Typo Negative was locked in a room with the Cult for a week, this might have been the sound that came out of that. So,
and the people out there, you can choose. Pick one or the other. If you don't know them, well, pick one or the other. Todd?
Yeah, this is a band my wife loves. She plays this stuff in the house, occasionally or more than occasionally. But I know that that this was a big deal album for this band because they completely changed kind of their sound. I think they were a lot heavier sounding in certain ways on records before, and it was a controversial album. And so I think this record was by Metal Hammer, was for 97, was listed as one of the top 20 best metal albums for then. Yeah, I mean, I listened to it. If you guys aren't familiar with the band, they're a British They're a British band. Let me see if I can find how they charted here, because I don't remember. I know it did pretty well.
They're probably charted in Europe.
So
right?
yeah, for sure. So like number 10, Austria, 44, Belgium, Dutch, like number 7, Finnish albums, number 8 in Germany, number 5.
Number 1 in Japan.
Yeah. So they did like, it was a big deal record again because of the kind of the shift in their direction. It's the 6th studio album released by the band, and that album marks the group's transition from a gothic metal act to a more electronic direction. It's also the best-selling record of their career, and this record gave them the ability to sign with EMI.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, people should check it out. It's really awesome stuff. And if you're not aware, I mean, again, maybe they're not a huge, well-known band in the US, but I know in Europe they're very well known. Yeah, you should absolutely check it out. So what was, because I don't want to make a mistake, the band that Alan mentioned?
It's a band called The Gathering.
Yeah, so I was not familiar with them. And I went and listened to them with the female singer. Is it like a female group?
Yeah, well, no, just a female fronted.
Okay,
I
so
believe,
right, Alan?
I believe.
yeah, okay. So I saw something live, but anyway, you had said to me that Jimmy, that they reminded you of Nightwish, but I don't hear that at all. Her singing sounds totally different than, maybe it's a tonal thing. It's not like that Beauty and the Beast kind of thing that I think of when I think of bands like Nightwish, for example. But I mean, from what I heard, it was really good. I'd have to dig more into their music. That's one of the things I like about this. When I hear of a band that I've never heard of, it's like, oh, okay. Because when you kind of get older, you're like less likely to go looking for things, because there's just such
Jimmy.
Only when you're forced in a situation.
Well, that's okay though. That's okay.
That's okay.
So
that's
and a lot of times if I have to like go drive or do something, I'll be like, okay, this is a great opportunity for me. I'm going to be driving. Let's put this on and give it a listen.
Yeah.
So that's a band that I will check out that I didn't know before.
All right. And there you have it.
Yeah.
So, we're not getting a lot of text. It's because probably not as known. Just a few people saying Paradise Lost, one of the best bands ever. I'm trying to see. We're just going to call it a tie, I guess. The Metal Block says Paradise Lost, not familiar with The Gathering.
How did the diapers work out? Diapers versus Judas Priest.
So would you pick up? No, I don't want to go there. One of the best things about these countdowns, that's Ben saying that, you'll learn from each other, right? You learn as a community.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say we have to keep this as a tie because it's too tricky. Interesting enough, the metal scene has shifted now to Europe. Not to say it was never there, but they're keeping it alive in Europe. As we can see, that's a trend, right? With the exception of the big bands in the United States and Canada. All right, here we go.
What number are we on?
Number four.
Number 4.
4 more to go. Boom. Dream Theater. Falling into Infinity. It's a different album for them. It is. It did well. It sold well. It charted well. Derek Sherinian's first album, Peruvian Skies, which is, a classic song. You Not Me, co-written by Desmond Child. In a sense, there's a lot of commercial aspects to this album. Probably a little less metal.
Really?
Little less metal on this album. Like you don't think of them as a metal band when you put this on. Well, You Not Me is a very commercial type song. Maybe they're looking for another hit. But I don't know. Overall, I think it's a really good album. It stood the test of time. It seems to be critically acclaimed. A lot of fans love this album, so that's what I'm going to say.
Go ahead, Alan.
Well, anything Dream Theater related, I defer to my good friend Cork. I've known him since he was 6 years old. He's the biggest Dream Theater fan in Montreal, dare I say, the world. So I asked him his opinion on this. And he said this album was made under pressure from labels to be more commercial. And I think you mentioning Desmond Child being hired would prove that point. Band questioned his identity after this record and was not happy about being told how to write. So the result is nonetheless a very good album in his opinion. Songs are catchy, melodies are great, but more of a standard prog rock album versus a metal rock album. And he rates it 8 out of 10. So that's all I can say
Stiff
about
Rod. Is Stiff Rod a Dream Theater fan?
Cork must have introduced 6,000 people to Dream Theater.
Corky's Danny, right? Corky's Danny.
Stiff Rod being one of them. So
Corky's Danny, right?
No.
Who's Corky? Is it Mark?
Yeah.
It's Mark. Okay. Right.
So that's it. Yeah. I mean, he's religious about Dream Theater. So if he gives it an 8 out of 10, well, it's probably a good album to have on the top 10 of 97. Then.
Todd, did you meet Stiff Rod last time?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, at the priest. At the priest.
Yeah, I did because remember I did because I thought it was a joke. The name I thought that.
His email is Stiff Rod, by the way.
I was like, I think this is a joke. You're the guy they joke about? It's like, what do you mean?
The legendary Stiff Rod.
I mean, I listen. Look, I remember this record. I have the record. Coming off of Images and Words, and then Awake, and then you hear this record. It's a totally different sounding record. I mean, it's super slow. Like it's really slow. It has like fast, some things that are more up tempo, but otherwise it's a slow record. It's very spacious. It has less hooks, in my opinion, singable hooks compared to like something like Pull Me Under, for example. And I don't. It's not fair to always be like comparing somebody like them to like a huge song that a band had in their career. You're not always going to write hit songs, right? It's not always what it's about. You're just writing music because they're incredible musicians. So like for musicians and like just letting music breathe and do what it wants to do out of like a formula kind of a thing, it probably is very appealing to a lot of people.
Look at Perrin. This is his number 2 of the year of 97. Look at that. So there are people who love this album. It's a fan album.
It sounds like more experimental to me, and abstract. I just know that, and there's some standout songs on it. I just think that I got to be in the right headspace for a record like that.
For any Dream Theater album, basically.
Right? Well, I mean,
there's a lot to absorb. There's a lot.
It's a lot to take in. There's a lot of notes. I'll be honest with you, and I've said this before. Like, I'm not a huge prog fan much. I totally appreciate it, and it takes immense talent to do what they do. But for me, it's like I really just kind of appreciate less notes and all the crazy time changes. It just kind of, and I'm a musician that can learn it and figure it out. And like I used to play a lot of that first record on drums, and so like Mike Portnoy's drumming was very influential, especially at that time, for so many drummers. And me being a drummer, I was like, oh, what's he doing here? And I loved it. And many other albums they've done, but I don't know, like I listened to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and after a while I'm like, okay, I've heard enough. I listened to now a band like Rush. Doesn't bore me. It doesn't bore me. Bore in a sense of like it's just sensory overload. It's too much going on. King Crimson, kind of the same way. Yes, can be a little much sometimes, but immense respect for it. But I just don't pop in prog records anymore. That's all I did was live prog, and I just had my fill, and it just doesn't really appeal to me anymore.
It's probably an age thing, like for all of us.
Maybe, I don't know. There's still like, look, we did Cruise to the Edge, which is a total prog cruise, and everybody on that ship is 50, 60, 70 years old. I mean, they're old, and they know
hurt.
every
That hurt, Todd. That hurt.
Sorry, it is what it is. But
it's my birthday next week.
50, 60, 70, that's old.
They're so dialed into every note, every change. They know this stuff inside and out. And there's a base for that. But a lot of that stuff just lacks that palatability. It's hard.
I think what you're trying to say is you have the song structure and you want the solos and the drum fills to fit into that organic sound of that song. Whereas when they do the solos, they just veer off completely, and then they come back to the song.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like, okay, I get it. Like it's exceptional playing, and it's like it's perfect, but it's just, I don't know. I lose interest, is what I'm saying. I lose interest.
Yeah, but we're putting ourselves on we're taking our 1997 hat, right? We're putting it on, and we're saying we're back in 1997. I've got a kid in one hand. I'm feeding him like this. Got to change some diapers.
Yeah.
Can't afford to buy CDs.
Yeah.
Dream Theater comes on. I go, you know what? I really like this new Dream Theater album.
I totally get it. And look, also in 97, like Dream Theater inspired a ton of bands that became prog bands.
Oh, yeah.
So you didn't have, there's a band from Europe called Vandenplas, if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah,
they're kind of like Europe's Dream Theater, if you will. Mm-hmm. You know, they're very compared to Dream Theater musically. There were not a lot of bands having that kind of viewership or popularity, if you will, like Dream Theater in 97 doing what they were doing. So it was even more wow, right? I mean, it was a big deal. Now I hear a prog band like that, I'm like, oh, it sounds like Dream Theater. They're kind of like,
and that's a great point. It's because when Dream Theater did it, they're sort of like on their own island.
And you know what? It's like the band Polyphia. I mean, amazing players, but if you know who Polyphia is and you listen to it, for me, if I hear a couple songs, I feel like I've heard everything I'm ever going to hear, because it's such a unique, distinct style and varying styles incorporated into one thing. If you listen to them, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And any new artist that does anything close to that, and kudos to Polyphia, because when you basically have when a style and sound, your name comes up as like that's who you sound like you've done a great thing. Yep. But it's a lot of that. It's just like so much playing, and I just don't hear songs in the way that I like. But again, it's totally subjective. They're amazing musicians, like ridiculous players, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they kind of did that, right? So if you hear certain, if you hear like a 7-time, and then you hear with the certain sounds they use, you're like Dream Theater, right?
Yeah.
And so, they were a big deal. So because it wasn't a saturated thing, in my opinion, in 97, it makes this record stand out again.
And that's where it is why it is. That's why it's at number 4. Alan, what do you want to say before we cut you off?
I got 13 minutes to wrap up the top 3, guys. Let's go.
The top 3. He's got 13 minutes for the top 3.
And I'm going to back away from 2 out of these 3 picks.
He's hungry. Alan didn't eat yet.
Let's
See,
go.
Alan, what I did is I ate before. Todd ate during, but you
just wasted a minute. Let's go. Number 3.
Oh, look at this.
Go ahead, Jim. I'm going to stand over here. I'm going to stand over.
I have very little to say.
Well, look.
Is this who I think it is?
Alan, this is Rammstein. That's Rammstein.
Yeah.
Rammstein.
Rammstein. They're sophomore album.
And think about it, 1997, here's this metal band, industrial, coming from East Germany, right? They're not speaking English. Like, you're scared of these guys in a way, right? They're brutal. The vocals are big, these big brashy baritone sort of. It's almost like you say. It's like drums and it's like percussional vocals in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Down tuned. There must be down tuned to like I don't know what's a C or maybe what's below C. I mean, the strings are just falling off at that point.
Yeah, it's
riff based techno.
Yeah.
Major groove. You can't stop these guys. Probably one of the first German metal bands to make the charts in the US. I mean, that sing in German, right?
Yeah.
So a force to be reckoned with. They've sold 5 million copies of this album. They've changed the game. And not only are they great musically, but they're live. It's just
they're pyro
they do stadium tours.
The pyro show, the guy wears like a backpack flamethrower thing. It's ridiculous. It's insane. Their pyro show, their stage show is untouchable.
No fear.
Wow,
My friend waited for them at an outdoor show here in Montreal. It poured rain all day. He was soaking wet, and within 4 bars of the first song, with all the pyro, he was completely dry.
Yeah, it's look, I understand why it's appealing to people. I think it would be fun to see live, but again, for me, the it's very unique when you hear them. Boom, you know who it is. They're a massive band. They sing in German, and they do things their way. Their videos are super edgy and provocative.
Oh man, their videos. Oh jeez, that's
yeah. And so, it definitely has that techno-y industrial, almost like a dare I say, like kind of like dancey. Like it has like a danceable,
it's got like a
techno-y thing.
Yeah,
but not my
Grammy nominated.
It's not my shit.
And you know what's amazing about this band? The same members it's the same members. It's all the original guys. They're still together and they're still doing the same thing.
Because you know what? Because who would want to see a band that didn't have all original members? You know what I mean?
I hate it. And I hate when they change the singer, man. I
know. It's not okay. It's not okay.
It's not okay. Look, guys, I hear what you're saying. This is probably the most unique sounding group on this whole list. But, let's talk about this album. Okay. Yes. For me, the songs are poppy, industrial German folk songs, man. I'm not sure this is metal on this album. That's my feeling.
God, Alan, come on.
I'm going to do like everybody else. You can't put that on the list. That's the metal. So that's I'm going to do it for a change. I haven't done to me all the time, so now I'm going to do it to everybody else.
All right.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I wish Johnny says Rammstein was phenomenal. First 3 albums were gold.
Yeah, look, I think their live shows are ridiculous. I mean, they're a sight to behold. They're massive, dude. They're massive.
And they just cross sort of the dance techno into the dance techno folk to the metal folk to the youth to the old. They appeal to everyone. And there's this, and their stage it's like Kiss back in the day.
But we're talking about the album. I agree with everything you're saying. We're talking about
the package. Album. They're the real deal.
All right, so number 2.
And they refuse to sing in English with the exception of a few songs here and there. Number 2, how many minutes do we have left, Alan?
You got 12 minutes.
I wish I had the publishing on Du Hast. I'll just say that.
Oh, you have me.
Go ahead.
8 or you have? Okay. Bruce Dickinson, Accident of Birth. There he is. Adrian Smith joins Bruce Dickinson on his solo album. Roy Z takes control of the knobs, plays guitar. Sort of, I wouldn't say a comeback, but I would say his solo career and his music suddenly really, I wouldn't say take off, but has become more the Maiden, more iconic, it's just that much better because his first few solo albums were so kind of like not so great, but now he's really coming into his own, I guess, musically, melodic, great production. Where is it? Accident of Bird. Derek Riggs, there you go, of Iron Maiden fame. He drew that or painted that, or it's beautiful. That's one of the covers, and of course this was the original. There it is, right?
My quick notes on it.
Yes.
I like Road to Hell. It sounds way more Iron Maiden-y than the rest of the record.
Yeah.
The production's okay. It's a good record. There's a lot of like present distorted bass, like the bass guitar. Mm-hmm. I don't like saying bass guitar, but that's what I mean. So you can hear that almost like, Lemmy had that distortion on the bass or whatever. You could hear a lot of that. It's tuned down. And I also like the song Ghost of Cain and the title track.
Yeah, Man of Sorrows, Star Children.
And it's more of like a raw, stripped down. It's a more raw, stripped down sounding record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alan?
Well, Skunk Works is what the project was before this one. Rod Smallwood just let Bruce know you got to use your name. You're a metal singer. That's what you're known for, and you're stuck with it. And I think after seeing Skunk Works not perform or be as successful as Bruce wanted, he fully embraced the metal vocalist. Brought Adrian back into the fold, right. And this proved it's probably his hardest sounding album for years. So. Back in '97, so I think it well deserved to be at number 2, and it came in at the top 500. Okay.
Oh, I know Popoff really likes
listed at, believe it or not, 72.
Oh, 72.
Number 72. Damn. Hey, when did Tattooed Millionaire come out? Because I remember getting that record, and like there was songs on I liked it, but this is like way.
If I was going to guess, 89. If I was going to guess,
it was before. It was before Take Your Daughter to the Slaughter, right? I mean,
yeah.
Bring your daughter.
I don't know if somebody knows. Please.
I'm gonna Google it while Alan's stomach is growling.
1990. Yeah. Parent says 1990.
Okay.
Close. 89, 90. Yeah, around there.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I didn't like Tattooed Millionaire. No, I did not. Like
Alan, time for dinner, Alan.
Yeah, I'm the chef. I'm the chief cook.
He's going to eat over the sink. He's going to be eating over the sink, Alan. His little sandwich.
I had to get the number 1 so that I can.
Alan, you got to pee and eat before the show.
I'm good, Jim. I got an appointment. Let's go.
All right, here we go. Number 1. And I don't know if Alan was on board with this number 1 or not, but
you do your thing, Jim.
Alan, how many minutes we have left?
I'm not going to get blamed for this for decades. You can't believe
blamed. Who's going to blame anybody? This is the best album of 1997. Saxon, Unleash the Beast. When you think of, sure, it was 1997. People did not want to hear this type of music. This is traditional heavy metal. When you put this album on compared to the other 9 that we spoke of, or 12 or 14, I don't know what the number is, but this stands out as, if you think about where it all began, this is where it all began. This is heavy metal back in 79 when the dam began to burst. Sure, it's not exactly the same, but the production is cleaner.
The production's killer.
It's killer. This album, it's kind of like it went under the radar, and it went under the radar because there wasn't that big backing of a major label, or because they weren't backing major tours, and basically the record companies weren't interested, or radio wasn't interested in playing these types of bands. But my God, this is critically acclaimed. If you look at all the reviews all over the internet on this album, you will see that it ranks just as high as any of the first 3 Saxon albums.
I mean, look, Terminal Velocity and The Preacher, as I told you, they kind of sound like AC/DC. And the way that he sings, he kind of has a little bit of that Bon Scott tone going on. It's heavy riffs, great grooves. The vocals are awesome.
Yeah.
The guitars are killer. And it's like very metal without sounding like a cliche power metal.
That's it right there, Todd. Right there. You nailed it. That's it.
And there's a lot of diversity on the record. It's not all I mean, there's a lot of different feels and drum beats and vibes going on. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Alan?
Look, let's get this straight.
Oh,
Saxon,
I don't like how you start off.
Saxon is a great band. You do not want to follow them live. Call to Arms, who kind of gave them another second career here in North America. That allowed me to go back and revisit stuff like Solid Ball of Rock and Unleash the Beast. Love the album. Absent Friends, I played that for at the funeral of my good friend Coco, who's followed a friend of the Metal Voice, followed us for years. I love that song. Anybody that lost someone close to them can relate to Absent Friends. But for this album to be number one in 1997, I think you've got your 21st century glasses on. You can even find this album in the stores in 1997, as far as I'm concerned.
But Alan.
Judging
the merit of their work, the merit of the work, critically acclaimed.
I missed that criteria. No problem.
That was there. Did I not mention that? Critically acclaimed means the reviewers like us. There's hundreds of reviews on the internet on this album, and it's always like in the 80s and 90s. And if you look at
Saxon, don't get me wrong.
I'm not happy about this.
You don't have to sell me on Saxon. You don't have to sell me on Saxon.
I know.
But for this to be the number one album in 97, I'm struggling.
There cannot be another album.
All right, before Alan goes to eat, Alan, what was your number one record for 97?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, there you go. You see? You see?
No, I don't know. There was I mean,
see, Saxon.
If I out of this list, I might have put Bruce Dickinson. Fate's Warning, I think that deserves to be higher.
But number one.
Dream Theater could have made a top 3 as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, we're not talking about top 3. What would be your number one?
I'm hedging my bets, man. I gave you 3 choices right there.
Okay.
Good to see you, Alan.
Just like a politician, this guy. Just like a politician.
Yeah, Todd.
Hedging his bets.
Always a pleasure.
All right,
Thanks
buddy.
for doing this again.
Yeah, nice to see you.
All right. Thanks for everybody paying attention and joining us in the chats. Thank you, everybody, for your time. All right.
And the comments.
See you, Alan. Hey, let's look at some real quick questions. Make sure we cover.
Okay, sure.
Alan,
how many minutes do we have left?
I got 4 minutes here.
Okay,
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay.
All right, let's see. The new Saxon album is good. I'm with Alan. Good album, but not number one. I'm with Jimmy. Saxon.
Of course.
What was somebody asked what was Todd's wife?
Julie says
said,
what was the one
Yes,
wife said?
Yes, I'm curious too. Yeah.
What was it?
Emperor.
I told you. Yeah. I listened to that today.
Emperor. That was my wife's. I can't believe you didn't include Emperor.
Well, I like Voivod, Phobos. I thought that's a great album. Probably just below the top 10. It's very industrial. It's very melodic, very aggressive. But, I'm probably more in the minority on that.
Some say that Dimmu and Cradle of Faith owe everything they have to Emperor.
Say that again?
They say some people say that there's like a third-rate Emperor, Cradle of Filth and Dimmu Borgir.
Oh,
okay, Top 1998 says Brandon. That is in 8 months from now. Let's see what else everybody said here. I need to go to bed, Tanvir. Strike the Reich is over. So good news. The one-man protest is done.
He's got that one more sale.
Oh, hold on. Parent said, Todd is from Tampa. How is Sabotage's Wake of Magellan not on the list? Come on, dude, represent. I mean, it's not on the list. I don't know, man.
We thought about it. It was sort of like on the table, but it didn't make the list.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Because at the end of the day, it's good, but it wasn't as good as these albums.
I mean, it wasn't like Streets or something, or Hall of the Mountain King.
Alan is very
97 or 90. Was that album 97 or 98? Maybe you can slip it into 98. According to Martin Popoff's book, it was released in 98.
Let me check.
So maybe you could make the next one, 1998 top 10.
I haven't looked at
1998 yet.
That was released. It was released September 15th of 97.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We're trying to get it on there.
You know, it's interesting. Queensrÿche here from the Now Frontier was not mentioned. We didn't mention that one.
Yeah.
It's not one of the best albums. That's why.
Right.
At least for me, it wasn't.
Yeah, I didn't care for it. Super melodic, 100% rotation. I'm reading the reception of the Sabotage record. Anyway, I mean, it is what it is.
All right. Okay, Alan, we'll let you go, man. I know.
All right, bud.
Alan's kind of like going this way. He's going this way.
Take care, Todd. Always a pleasure.
He's like, you'll be swell. You'll be great.
I gotta go, yeah. See you in 9 years.
And the cane just comes out.
Honey, everything's coming up.
Alan?
Always a pleasure, Todd. Take care, and we'll be in touch soon.
All right.
Okay.